All right, guys, thank you so much and welcome. This is Stefan Piscano with the Stefan Piscano podcast. An incredibly special day to me. Today is August 24th, which is Black Mamba Day, honoring the late, great Kobe Bryant. One day after his birthday, August 23rd, 1978, where if Kobe was alive today, he would be 47 years old. And for me, like millions of other Kobe Bryant fans around the world, this is a special day. It's a day to honor him. And one of the ways that we're doing that on the show is I had the great privilege and honor to interview Jay Skapanik, the content creator and founder of the YouTube channel Skap Attack, which is one of the fastest growing channels in sports media. At the time this episode's going live, he has nearly 100,000 subscribers. He's a sports historian and in a very, very short period of time has really taken the sports media landscape by storm. So I believe that we're going to be hearing from him in multiple platforms in bigger and better ways. And I can't thank Jay enough for taking the time to sit down with us. He really couldn't have been more gracious. We got to talk sports in general, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James for nearly 2 hours. For those of you that are interested more in the entrepreneurial stuff that we normally talk about, you can just skip to about the hour and 20-minute marker because he did, as somebody that's been a viral success with social media, really taken YouTube by storm. Like I said, he gave us some tips from an entrepreneurial standpoint on how to grow a YouTube platform that I found extremely valuable, and I think you will too. So I'm going to play that interview in a moment. Before we do, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what Kobe Bryant means to me and why this is such a special topic for me. So a lot of you in my network know my backstory. I moved 30 plus times before I was 18 years old, had kind of a little bit of a wacky childhood. In 1996, when Kobe was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers, when you're sitting around with your buddies, I said to one of my friends, that guy's my favorite player. Having no idea what he was going to amount to. I had just seen him win the slam dunk contest in 97, and I just liked the style of his game. I liked the explosion with his game. And watching Kobe develop, watching the obstacles he overcame from the moment that he came into the league, and you'll hear Jay really get into detail on that during this interview. Watching everything that he overcame from shooting 4 air balls in his first playoff series against the Utah Jazz as a 18-year-old rookie, to having to fight for playing time on his own team, to having to overcome really hurdles the likes of which, in my opinion, no other all-time great player had to overcome, from playing with broken fingers to broken eye sockets to shooting free throws with a torn Achilles tendon, and the media pushback that he had to fight against his entire career. He personified to me greatness in an athlete and in an individual. And having someone like that, having someone that I, as a teenager, as a young adult, as someone trying to get into business in my 20s and in my early 30s, that I could look at and see how they overcame adversity in anything that they were setting their mind to. It's a fundamental principle of endurance that I think about all the time. And honestly, even today, with trying to get this dang thing edited in time to have it live, which I just barely made it by about an hour here to get it live on the day I said it would, with a bunch of other obstacles and things going on this last week here, I think about what would Kobe do? And he would always put in that extra effort. And for me, as somebody that was moving around so much throughout my childhood, one of the few constants in my childhood was wherever I was, whatever was going on, Kobe was always there. I could always watch the Lakers games obsessively. I could always cheer. I could always keep up with the statistics. And then because of my age and Kobe playing 20 years, being able to follow him into my adult life and then ultimately moving to California and getting to see his games in person, and then going to his final game, which Jay also did as well. And we talked a lot about what that final game where Kobe Bryant scored 60 points meant to both of us. It was the most beautiful thing to take this relationship with someone that you've never met, that you were such a fan of, from childhood into my 30s, and to be able to realize that so many other people had a similar relationship from afar from Kobe means a lot to me. And honestly, I don't care how many listens or views or subscribers we get off of this. This one was just for me. This one was special for me. And it's great to know that there's someone entering the sports media landscape that has their facts straight, and we get to celebrate and honor the legacy of Kobe Bryant and NBA basketball in general in such a beautiful way. All right, guys, thank you so much and welcome. This is Stefan Piscano with the Stefan Piscano podcast. And I got to tell you guys, we've had a lot of great guests on this show. We've interviewed real estate moguls, war heroes. We've had some stock market gurus. I have never been more excited and honestly more nervous than I am today, because we've got somebody on here that I'm a genuine fan of. His name is Jay Skapanik, which I hope I pronounced correctly. He's the founder of the YouTube channel Skap Attack with nearly 100,000 subscribers. He is a diehard Kobe Bryant fan, as am I, and I believe articulates sports content better than anyone I've ever come across.
Stefan, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Looking forward to having the conversation with you. And I'm very humbled and appreciative for that great lead-in you just gave me.
Well, I try. I try, buddy. And I want to talk, I've got a lot of things I want to cover with you. We want to talk about sports, of course. I want to talk about the entrepreneurial side of what you're doing. But I want to take it back because you're pretty new to this, right? You're about 2 years in, and you've had pretty explosive growth. What was it that gave you the idea that you even wanted to pursue going the YouTube route and really taking your content mainstream in that way?
Well, it's a great question, and I'll try to keep it as brief as I possibly can. But I in my undergraduate life, which is a long, long time ago now, in a galaxy far, far away, but I was in broadcast and print journalism at Penn State University. So that was kind of my life's ambition or goal or dream, I guess. Well, actually, I've had three dreams my whole life: be a professional athlete, be Tom Cruise, or be Jim Rome or somebody of that ilk. Like a national talking sports head. So the professional athlete thing kind of sailed. I'm too old for that. I don't think Tom Cruise is in my cards at this point.
You might pull it off,
But I figured, basically one of my life's goals was to be, one of these known national sports kind of personalities, and I was working towards that in my early life. Oh my goodness, sorry.
Is that the famous?
It is. Let me just pick her up here real quick.
For those that don't know, in my audience, Jay's cat or dog here is I'm thinking because I've got 5 cats, but his dog is a celebrity on your channel, correct?
That is true. That was little Luna. This is actually, Stefan, I don't know if you should feel honored or angry. This is pretty much the first time she's really disrupted a recording.
No, I'm honored, brother. That's great.
So she's saying hi. Yeah, she is a 12-pound Shih Tzu, and she has a lot of sass. So she's
gotten some super chats over the years, right? I think
she has, and she appears in some videos and stuff. So. But anyway, back since she so rudely interrupted us, I was kind of in that on that trajectory coming out of college. I worked in the industry, so to speak, for about 2 years, and at that point, just kind of diverted down a different path of different jobs, varying industries of things that never really satisfied or fulfilled me. So I was approaching quickly this kind of birthday, this year, this arbitrary number, which like milestone number 2 years ago, and I decided it's pretty much now or never. So if I'm ever going to rekindle take this journey or take a shot at chasing down the dream, now is the time. So luckily I am married. Luckily I have a very forgiving and understanding wife.
That helps.
So, she's like, do whatever, pursue whatever you want, pursue whatever you think. So I gave myself at that point like pretty much like a year time frame, where if I didn't succeed, in a year, then I would just take it, as a sign that I'm not meant to do it. And I didn't, at that time, I didn't even really know how I was going to start this journey, because I didn't know much about social media or video editing or anything like that. But in this age of digital social media things, I just assumed, I could start this journey from anywhere, really, as long as I could learn some rudimentary things about YouTube uploads and social media, marketing and stuff like that. So I just kind of jumped in 2 years ago, like you said. I think it was March of 2023 was when I really started. So actually coming up on 2.5 years. But yeah, it's been a crazy, pretty rewarding journey to this point, and I'm thinking I'm just kind of at the starting point still. So I still feel pretty early on in this journey, and I'm just excited to see where it goes from here.
And it's been so exciting. And and your audience that's on there knows, but my audience, just so you know, I'm kind of a Skap Attack super fan, and I basically stalked him to get him to do this. Actually, you were very generous and kind. But for me, one of the key things for those that don't know that just made you stick out to me, and I think the first video of yours that I saw was called The Last Choke, which I think is one of your more famous ones. I think it has 400,000 views, somewhere around there.
So yeah, it's in the 300,000 range, I think. Now that was my first. I told you I started in March of 2023. That video came at the end of May 2023, when LeBron was eliminated, when they got swept in the Western Conference Finals by Nikola Jokić and the Denver Nuggets, and that was the real one. I was sitting around 600 or 700 subs at that point, and that video just blasted me off and put me over the 1,000 mark, and it's just been a steady ascent since then. But yeah, that one, I think it was like May 28th, 2023 or something like that, a date that will live in infamy for me for my YouTube journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we spoke on the phone the other day, you alluded to that being with me since then, and that's pretty much the beginning so you've been with me since the beginning, essentially.
Yeah, well, and where I'm going with that too is two things, I guess. Number one, just as somebody that I guess has been watching this as a fan for the last 2.5 years here, it's been such a cool thing to watch. And you do such a great job of cultivating your audience too, to where you really connect with the people including myself, obviously. That's. But I'm wondering, what does that feel like? So you started in March, that happened in May. So you have 2 months where you're growing at a steady pace. What does it feel like when that first video hits and you're getting you go from hundreds to hundreds of thousands of viewers watching your content? What does that feel like?
Yeah, it was kind of overwhelming at the moment that it happened. My truth be told, two friends of mine. Well, let me go back a little bit further. I have this March Madness tradition with two friends from Pittsburgh. That's where I'm from originally, and we've been watching March Madness together for basically 20 years now. And pretty much every year for the last 5 or 6 years, I do the invite for this event, and I do some crazy, funny YouTube video. So two of my best friends have told me like I should be YouTubing and become a YouTuber. So 4 years ago, they set me up with the SkapAttack, taking my Twitter handle, which I've had for about 15 years, is SkapAttack. Okay. So they took my Twitter handle and made this channel, and I did virtually nothing with it for 2 years. I just let it kind of sit there. And, in March of 2023, I decided, well, how hard could this YouTube thing be? Like, I just need to, if I just devote as much time and energy as I possibly can to it every day, I mean, obviously, like, I could just grow this thing very quickly, immediately. And I guess in hindsight, like for a lot of other people in the YouTube journey they've gone through, maybe 2.5 months isn't probably all that much time to work on something.
It's not, brother. Trust me.
But for me, I was like, after like 2.5 months, I'm like, man, this YouTube thing is harder than I thought. Like I'm putting in 8, 10, 12-hour days on this channel, and it's like I'm getting, a couple 200, 300 views on these videos that I thought were outstanding videos, and it was pretty discouraging. And then when that last choke one popped off, now it doesn't sound like much at all. I think it got like 25 or 30,000 views in the first 24 hours. Now that's just like
that's standard.
Yeah, it's standard, or maybe even probably a little bit below what I'm anticipating when I upload now these days. But back then I was like, oh my, this is unbelievable growth. Like I think I got maybe 2,000 subscribers in the span of like 36 hours. So it was definitely, it was overwhelming in a good, positive way, and I still feel that way. You mentioned my like cultivating of the audience and stuff. It's because I genuinely just connect with all of you guys. Like it's just to me, like I don't think it will ever get old. Like I'm just so thankful of having such a faithful and rabid audience base that like really goes to bat for me and comes out pretty much for like every video and supports me. So it's just a really cool thing, and I just feel so very thankful for all of you guys. So that's why that's kind of that feeling will never dissipate, I don't think.
No, and you can feel that. I mean, and honestly, I think part of what, and this is a good segue into some of the Kobe LeBron stuff, but I think part of what that is obviously you're a diehard Kobe Bryant guy, as I mentioned at the top. When I first saw your video, and I've been obsessively a Kobe guy for his entire career and since. And when you grow up like that, it's a very lonely place, right? Because sports media for so long doesn't give that side of the coin, because in my opinion, they make more money, and I can't even blame it because it's profitable to have a current player debated against a retired player. So for them, it's a strategy with LeBron versus Jordan, LeBron. And then you're watching the games, if you're really a sportsman, and you're watching LeBron choke his ass out year after year, and you're just saying, well, what I'm seeing with my eyes doesn't match the coverage that is being reported. And I was thinking about it leading up to this interview. To my knowledge, there's never been a full-on Kobe Bryant mainstream media person. You mentioned in a comment I put at Rick Bucher, he's pro Kobe, but he's not avidly like these LeBron and Jordan guys are. It's kind of like the old Rush Limbaugh saying, he used to say, people would say, well, he's telling people what to think. And he would say, well, no, I'm just reflecting what they already think and they can't get it anywhere else. And when I saw that first video, you reflected it so perfectly, and with the analytical data, it did in such a beautiful way that it not only creates a view, but it creates a passionate follower. And because you are sincere with that, obviously, then it creates this cohesion that I think leads to the growth that you have. Is that just a completely organic process that it evolved that way, or have you retrospectively looked at that at all?
Yeah, it's getting to the point now where it's evolving, and I had really no idea what was capable on YouTube, or, how people make money on YouTube or build businesses through it. So that really wasn't a consideration when I started this. It's getting to the point now where I have to think of it as a business. But still, though, it's rooted in my passion for the things I'm talking about. Yeah. I don't really make content just to try to, get clicks or views. I basically, everything I do, everything I'm working on every day is just something that I'm passionate about, something that I want to talk about, or tell a story about. So, that's absolutely like at the heart of everything that I do. And I don't think that will ever change. And two of the things I'm most passionate about is LeBron is overrated as hell and Kobe Bryant is underrated. And those two things to me, as you kind of alluded to, are connected. They're intertwined. A lot of people in my fan base or subscribers think of me as an anti-LeBron guy, but it really is more so born out of the fact that I'm a pro Kobe guy. Yeah. So because Kobe came first, and Kobe owned that era first. So like really. The ways that I feel about LeBron is just reactionary because of what I know to be true about Kobe Bryant.
Well, and you can feel, just like how you can feel the authenticity and the sincerity of your content, you can feel the media manipulation with LeBron stuff to the point where I wonder, when I'm watching some of this stuff, how many of these people on ESPN and FS1 even really believe it or realize what they're saying, or if they're just being compensated in some capacity or another.
I would think that there's a very small percentage of these media flunkies and stooges out there that are touting LeBron, that really truly believe what they're saying about him. I mean, first and foremost, look, we've seen the rift between Stephen A. Smith. I use Stephen A. Smith kind of as a barometer because he is, the preeminent voice for ESPN. Maybe the most powerful sports entity, the Disney Corporation and ESPN, and Stephen A. Smith is their primary mouthpiece. And, recently we saw over this last season, he kind of got into a fight with LeBron at half court during an actual game because of the way Stephen A. Smith was covering Bronny, and, the ensuant rift that ensued between Stephen A. and LeBron at that point. But for years prior to that, Stephen A. Smith has been just one of these sycophantic, bootlicker LeBron James supporters who have just been, pulling him drastically up the all-time ranks and talking about him, in the same breath as Michael Jordan. I think in a private moment, though, Stephen A. Smith doesn't believe and never believed that, in the first place. I think he probably barely has LeBron on his top 10 fringe, but for whatever reason, he's been mandated from the powers that be within the ESPN mothership that he just has to talk this guy up and really just to ratchet up, ratings and try to, cultivate viewers is pretty much the way I see it. And I think that is mostly true for most of these people that have been moving LeBron up because, Stephen, here's the thing. They've been covering basketball for too long professionally. Like, they've seen too much.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they got flashy thingy from Men in Black and just totally forgot, all of the eras and all of the greats that preceded LeBron. And LeBron just has too many damn blemishes for these people to really actively believe that it's Jordan, LeBron, and then everybody else.
Yeah, and this is the problem when I interview somebody that I'm such a big fan of, because my brain's jumping around all over the place here because you keep saying things that get me excited. But I'm just going to go with the most recent thing that popped in my head, which is, Skap, have you over the years, because I remember when LeBron went to Miami to form the Big Three, I was so happy about it at the time because I was like, oh, good. He's never going to win another MVP now. He'll never get credit because that's historically what it would have been for everybody else. And I've been shocked throughout his career for 23 years now how the media covers for him time and time again, to where, and even he said in an interview that first season in Miami, he said, yeah, I think when we all joined up, MVPs were done for all of us, and it's about a bigger goal. And then he wins 2 MVPs. And now with the Luka stuff, you see Luka go from a universal top 2-3 player to a fringe top 7, top 8 player by the media. It's just shocking to me that 23 years in, how they cover for this guy. And I can't think of any other reason than financial motivation, like you just said.
It has to be. I think it honestly is like LeBron came along in a perfect time for him because Michael Jordan. I think of Michael Jordan because I'm a child of the '80s and I grew up in the '90s, so I think of Michael Jordan's career as ending in 1998. But Yeah. Of course, he went to the Wizards for 2 years. I believe his second year was 2002, 2003. Was Jordan's official last year in the NBA. The next year is the year that LeBron James came in. Yep. So the NBA was, soul searching at that point, trying to find the next torchbearer that was going to pick up for Michael Jordan. And of course, you and I, being Kobe guys, were like, well, they don't have to look too far because they've got Kobe Bryant in the NBA right now. Like, what are we even talking about? But for whatever reason, Kobe had some right around that same period of time. Yep. Kobe had the off-court, transgressions in Eagle County, Colorado. In addition to, at that point in time, they went through the playoffs that year. They lost to the Pistons.
Shaq stuff, yeah.
And then he forces Shaq. allegedly forced Shaq and Phil Jackson out. So then Kobe becomes this pariah of this selfish shot chucking ball hog who would rather, score points than win championships. So all of that coupled with the off court stuff, like all going on at the same time that Michael Jordan was exiting the NBA, and then this chosen one, LeBron James, that one of the most heralded blue chip recruits we'd ever seen coming out of high school, just aligned perfectly with that time frame. And the NBA and all of the NBA's media just kind of married themselves to him at that point. And it's just been, I guess, self-preservation all these years that their viewership to some degree is tied intrinsically to him. So they have to do everything they can to uplift, protect him. And of course, we see how that's gone for the NBA. Bad move, because they're at nearly unprecedented low points in popularity and viewership.
And and this was what I was gonna say when I was originally, and then you got me excited about all this other stuff. But that's the thing that is heartwarming to me is first I see your videos and I go, oh wow, well somebody else exists that thinks this way. But not only, I mean, then I see all the people in your network, hundreds and thousands of people that realize this, and that's heartwarming to see that people see the same stuff that we see, and it actually feels like, and I don't know if it's just the YouTube universe I'm living in, but it feels like the majority of people realize this whole thing is a sham.
A lot of people do, and a lot of people, I don't want to age it or put certain parameters on it based on when you were born, but I feel like my audience skews a little bit older. Like people, I think you and I are about the same age. People, I'd say maybe like 35 to 50 are like the real demographic. I think that they've just seen it throughout their lives. Like we've grown up watching it and we realize it easier. Yeah. To me, the most rewarding thing is when I get younger kids on my channel or in the comments that are like, yo, Skap, I'm only 22 and, you've opened my eyes. Yeah, I think LeBron's overrated now. I got Kobe over LeBron now. So I get quite a bit of feedback like that. So that's really what warms my old heart at this point.
Skap, I was going to tell you, so I was born in 83. I think we're about the same age, like you said. I don't know how old is not,
I was also born in 83. So.
Okay, well, so we're not old, brother. We're in our prime. I'm telling you. Anyway, oh man. So let me ask you this. So it's been tied to, like you said, and I love the way you put it, to people like Stephen A., people like ESPN, even Skip Bayless, who I was a big fan of until he kind of went weird the last few years here. Their revenue was tied in one way or another to LeBron. What do you think happens now that he really is at the end and you're starting to feel some of this shift with the Lakers supporting Luka over LeBron and catering to Luka instead of LeBron? Where do you think this goes? Do you think that they stick to their guns, or do you think that there is kind of a hard ending for him here?
Yeah, I think the NBA is in a tough place. They basically painted themselves into the corner because they've tied themselves to LeBron and stuck with him so rigidly throughout the years that now it's going to be a very difficult pivot point for them. They have a lot of great young stars right now in the NBA. Had they started marketing them more and building them more, a couple years ago, they would be in a much better point for transition now. But now I think they've just lost their way. So I think they're probably going to bottom out even more. I know it's hard to imagine because they're already at a pretty big low point here. Essentially, starting at the 2020 finals, if you want to call it that, the COVID, affected season, that the last one that LeBron won, that is still now the lowest rated finals in NBA finals history.
I did not know that. Okay, that makes sense.
I believe the average viewer share per game was like 7 million viewers, which is just insanely low. If you go back to, I know this is an outlier one too, but the 98 Last Dance Jordan Bulls one, like that was pulling in, upper 20, like 26, 27 million, and it peaked at like 35 million in one game there in that series. So, and LeBron and the Lakers were pulling sub 7 mil per game in 2020, and it's been bad ever since. The last like 4 or 5, not as bad as that, but it really hasn't recovered. And I feel like the finals are essentially a microcosm for the popularity of your sport. Like that is the pinnacle of the season. Like that should be the most watched moment of the year, is those finals games. And when you look at how poor they are, comparatively speaking, from a historical standpoint, it obviously does not speak very favorably to what LeBron James has yielded for the NBA. And I think it's actually going to probably get worse when he leaves, because they're going to just be at this crisis point where they haven't prepared anybody, and none of the viewers are prepared with this next wave, because they've just stuck so rigidly to not just LeBron, primarily him, but even like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Like those are still, look at the Christmas games we have, Stephen, for next year. Like it's still all built around LeBron, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry. Like we need to start thinking beyond that. Like Nikola,
they haven't even pushed Giannis.
I hear you. I hear you. And it was basically like 2019 when Giannis became, I think Giannis won back-to-back league MVPs and a defensive player of the year during that 2019-2020 season. Then, of course, the emergence of Nikola Jokić came like immediately after that. And neither of those guys seem to tickle the fancy of the NBA's marketing machine. So I just don't know what has to happen to open these guys' eyes, but it's going to take these older statesmen, probably their retirements, for the NBA finally to begrudgingly move on.
Well, and I've got two things I want to hit on, because you touched on something I've thought a lot about privately, and I wanted to ask you about, going back to 03, 04, LeBron comes in the league, Jordan retired the year before. I mean, the timing could not have been worse for Kobe for the reasons you alluded to, the Shaq stuff, the Colorado stuff. And it felt like they had no choice, like you said, to hitch their wagon to this guy. And then everything that's happened since then has been about backing up the opinion. I mean, I remember, and you might be one of the only other people on the face of the earth that might remember this, but when the Heat went to the finals, the first year when they ultimately got destroyed by the Mavericks, but when they beat the Bulls in the conference finals, I went to ESPN.com, and I remember there was an article on the front page that said LeBron reaches his place as the greatest of all time. And he still had no championships at that point. So they were saying this, before he had won any championships. And then it's just been about backing up that narrative and that argument. Okay, so here's my question. If what they did with that strategy, if it's disgusting to basketball purists and people that really care about the validity of the sport, but it made them billions upon billions of dollars, this is probably the most pro-LeBron thing I've ever said, but was that smart? Because as a business guy, I can understand, like, okay, this is our marketing strategy. This makes sense. Let's do it. And who cares if there's 20% of the fans that see it and are upset by it? We're still making money.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA's always been a star-driven league, and it absolutely. LeBron, look, whether you love him or you hate him, he obviously he is a very divisive figure. So there pretty much is no in between. You either love or hate LeBron James, but he does engender viewership and even just not just for the games, but for ESPN, like for all of their talking head shows, their debate shows and stuff. I mean, LeBron and the Lakers, or LeBron and the Cavs, or whatever team he's on, essentially, is always, top-notch debate fodder. So it's typically always leading the shows off. So I don't think you can begrudge the marketing machine for making the decisions that they did. And it probably did, even though the NBA is cratering out now, like I said, in its popularity, which they are, and the viewership. But yet they're still signing mega deals.
That's what I mean.
They just signed like a $77 billion deal or something like that for 11. It's like 11 billion annually or something, 9 or 11 billion annually with NBC, Disney, and Amazon, I believe. So to your point, I guess from a marketing and from a dollar and cent standpoint, it was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, it also put a lot of pressure on LeBron James, I think. Pressure that he kind of helps to bring more upon himself.
Yeah.
And I think it's destroyed his legacy to some degree, at least for people that are really paying attention.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess this is my nice LeBron portion of the podcast, because, I almost feel bad for him. And this is the question I've really wanted to ask you, because I'm just curious if anyone else on the face of the earth remembers this. But there was a period in that time where, inside the NBA, had Kobe on as a guest. And I remember they asked him, who are the top 5 best players and who are the top 5 best teams in the NBA? And the tone of that interview, and I wish I could pull it up. Maybe I'll try to find it and put a clip in here. But the tone of the interview was like they were scolding Kobe. I remember he included himself in the top 5, and they said, "Well, we congratulate you for putting yourself at 5th and not putting you at number 1. That's humble of you." And he was like, "Well, I didn't put it in order. I just telling you these are the top." And then they had LeBron on like a week or two later for the same interview, and they asked him the same questions. And LeBron said, "Hey, if I see Kobe on the wing, I'm going to pass it to him." And this was like his first or second season. And I remember thinking, LeBron even realizes Kobe's better than him. And I almost feel like he was forced into this situation where he had to create this false narrative by the big wigs at ESPN or whoever to present himself in this way. It almost makes me feel bad for the guy. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, LeBron, I think I saw him play in high school. I saw Kobe play in high school, and you could see the differential. I mean, you could see Kobe Bryant was an alpha on the court. You could just see his tenacity, his desire to just break down people, whoever was in front of him, even if it was 3 or 4 players. LeBron had this just passive mentality, even when he was playing against substantially undermatched players from a physical standpoint on a high school level. Like, he still just had more of like a pass first mentality, even at that level, back when he was 17, 18 years old. And I don't think it never truly changed. Like, LeBron he doesn't have the alpha mindset. It's why he continues to roam around the NBA and try to join other, alpha caliber players. And it's why he doesn't mind, deferring or saying, even if just early in his career, that he would defer to someone like Kobe Bryant. I think often of when they were all on the same team, the '08 Redeem team. And they did do a good documentary piece on it about how in awe all of those guys were of Kobe Bryant at the time, and they were all established stars by that point in time. LeBron James was just on the cusp of winning some MVPs, and Kobe came in and basically all of them, even LeBron admittedly was like, this guy's just different from us. So I mean, LeBron could admit it at least at an early stage. Now, of course, his brain has been warped and he just thinks he's the greatest.
Yeah, and that's why I have no sympathy for him now, because the last 10, 15 years he's bought all in, and hey, I mean, why wouldn't he? He's worth $1 billion for doing it, and if you're got to get, honestly, if somebody gave me $1 billion to act like a fraud, I would do it too, honestly. So I mean, whatever, but I mean, it's infuriating for those who care about basketball. But okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'll get into the modern day stuff I wanted to ask you about, because this is one thing that I have to give you pure credit for. The thing that you have converted me on, that everybody in your fan base really knows, is you're a diehard Jokić guy, and I was not. And then when I heard you talking so positively about him, I thought, well, maybe I ought to rethink this thing, and I started paying more attention. Now, you've got me on the bandwagon. I would pick Giannis over Jokić, but I respect him now 200% more than I did before watching your channel. But talk to me about your favorite players that are playing right now and why you have attached yourself to them.
Yeah, I mean, you just named them. Like, I think very little of a lot of the modern current players. Two of the ones, though, that I really do have a lot of respect and admiration for is Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokić. And I wasn't a big Jokić guy either initially. The first 2 MVPs he won, he was flaming out in the playoffs, but he also was missing either his best player or his next best 2 players in those playoff runs. So, but still at the time I was like, well, okay, he wins these 2 MVPs and he's losing in the first and second round. Like, this is another LeBron situation we have going on here. But when I really dialed in myself and started paying attention to what was happening, the supporting cast that he had there, it just kind of became reminiscent to me of at the time when he won me over, of Giannis, what he did a couple years earlier. And the reason why I kind of lumped them both in the same kind of deal, and I think of them both very highly, is because these are 2 guys, both now a decade plus in the league. They were drafted really to untenable situations in terms of like the franchise, not great well-known franchises, not big, very, very rich franchises. They're, two small markets in Milwaukee and Denver. And these two guys just go about their work. They never demand, more help. They don't throw their teammates under the bus ever. They don't beg for trades. They don't leave, they don't stab their franchises in the back and go and team up with some top 5 player. These are the two best players that the NBA, that the world has had for probably about 5 or 6 years now. Since 2019, I would say these are the two best players on earth.
Yeah.
And yet they just still stay in these small markets with underwhelming amounts of supporting cast. They never complain, and they both have won championships. Like, they actually delivered. This would be akin to if LeBron didn't leave Cleveland to go to Miami, or at least if LeBron actually delivered a title to Cleveland before leaving in his first 7 years. So these two guys, to me, I put these guys at a higher tier for my money than even LeBron James. These are the two best players since Kobe Bryant retired, in my estimation.
Without a doubt, I agree 100%. And honestly, for me, Giannis basically is a better defending, better rebounding LeBron James. If you didn't have the weird hype, like, that's him, which is a great player. That's why, again, I feel bad in a way that the media has put us in this position where they've got LeBron falsely propped up so high, because it'd be nice to give him credit for being an all-time great player like Giannis or like Karl Malone. But, it's just not that. It makes me think, too, how much luck and timing plays into how your legacy is perceived, right? Because to me, Giannis has got to be one of the most unlucky, and Jokić, too, with Jamal Murray getting injured every other year and all this stuff. But man, I think what is it, like 3-4 years in a row, either he himself has been injured at playoff time or his second or third best player's injured. I mean,
both, both players. Giannis missed the entirety of, they obviously lost in 7 in the first round when he didn't play with, I don't know, they were calling it a calf strain, but I think he had some Achilles tendonitis or something going on. And then, he hurt his back in the first game. I guess it was 4 years ago, and he missed the first really 3 games, and that's what the year they lost to Miami. Then Damian Lillard was hurt when he finally gets a top-notch star, and Damian Lillard gets hurt then. And the same, like you said, same can be true with Nikola Jokić. Starting in his first league MVP year, it's been 5 seasons now from age 25 to 30 for Nikola Jokić. And Jamal Murray missed 2 full postseasons in that 5-year run. So his second best player missed altogether 2 full runs. And then Michael Porter Jr. missed one of those runs as well. So his top 2 options other than himself. Then Murray, of course, wasn't, close to being healthy last season. And then this year, Aaron Gordon got hurt. Russell Westbrook was playing with a broken hand, we now find out. So it just seems like those two guys just can't catch a break with the health either to themselves or their supporting cast. And they don't have a great supporting cast to begin with.
I was just going to say, yeah.
And yet, again, no complaints, and they still both have a title, which is why I just think, you could easily excuse away both of them not having any championships at this stage of their career. Specifically Jokić, who has never played with an all-star yet in 10 full years. He's the only player ever that can say that he is, for the first 10 years of his career, he has not played with a single all-star, all-NBA caliber player, or all-NBA defensive caliber selected player. He's the only player ever for 10 years of his career to not play with those guys. You could easily excuse away him when you, again, factor in the injuries as well, and yet he still found a way to win one. Again, this is just why I think so highly of him.
Well, and I know that's what you're kind of known for being an anti-Jamal Murray guy, just a little bit, right? Just a touch.
Yes, I do not think that highly of Jamal Murray. I think the problem is really, Stefan, the fact that he's so overpaid. I mean, he is making, I think he's going to make 55 plus million into 58 million over the next 4 seasons. And he misses 20 to 30 games a year every year. He shows up kind of out of shape to start the season, plays himself in to shape, but then typically carries some kind of an injury concern into the postseason. And then he's, hot and cold in the playoffs. So I just think Nikola Jokić, Jamal Murray would be a great third option on a championship team. I don't really view him as a strong second tier player for a dynastic type team, which what we're talking about here is Nikola Jokić needs to win more than one championship to be considered top 10 all time. So yeah, I'm pretty hard on Jamal Murray. I'll give you that.
I mean, and you've kind of converted me a little bit on that too, because you look at his consistency and his numbers, and it's underwhelming. I will tell you, though, the only pro thing Jamal Murray, I'll say, that series that he had, I guess it was in the bubble against Donovan Mitchell, where they were both throwing back and forth 35, 40-point games. That was something else. But it's bizarre that you can't count on him for that. He has this incredibly high, and then these shockingly low lows.
And he does have great moments. And the whole 2023 run, he was fantastic. And of course, what happened in the 2023 year was the Nuggets easily won a championship. That's my problem with Murray. Like if he just played up to his potential more frequently in the playoffs, they would win more. And some of that obviously is tied to his health issues, which again, I think is somewhat tied to his lack of conditioning and work that he's putting in the offseason. But I mean, there's no doubt the guy has a high ceiling, but the question really is, like you alluded to, is consistency. And sometimes, consistency is better. Like if he would just be consistently good, it would be better than his, great highs, but then his terrible low points.
Yeah, and it's bad. When it's bad for him. It really is. Well, are you, as a fan of both then, were you happy that Giannis decided to stay in Milwaukee? And I've seen your videos. You're semi-happy with the Nuggets offseason this year, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because I really strive. One of the things I pride myself in being is consistent. And I strive. One of the things I never want to come off as in life, but definitely on my channel or me as a personality, is being any kind of a hypocrite. So a lot of people, they're not nuanced enough to understand the context of what I'm talking about. I go into great detail in trying to outline it and define why I feel the way I feel. But I have been wanting Nikola Jokić and Giannis Antetokounmpo to get away from these franchises for a couple years now.
Yeah.
But then all of the LeBron stan boys will come back at me. Well, Skap, this is just so utterly inconsistent of you. What a hypocrite. Like, you crush LeBron all the time for the stuff that he did, and now you're championing Giannis and Jokić leaving. But it's not the same, and there are levels to this. Like, I don't begrudge LeBron for leaving Cleveland after 7 years. But it's just the decisions he made, the place that he went, the tactics that he took when he left is what I have a problem with. If LeBron wanted to go somewhere, not like another top 3 players team like he did with Dwayne Wade, or go to the West or something like that, maybe get one other guy with him, I would have been totally fine with that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, and I don't want to cut you off, but that's the thing. It's not so much the tactic. To me, it's the reaction to the tactic. Because, people forget, for those, I guess, that don't, I feel like everybody knows this stuff, but maybe not. Dwayne Wade averaged 30 the season before he joined LeBron. Chris Bosh averaged 24 and 11, right? Mm-hmm. So, any other player that does that, they can win titles. It'd be like Kevin Durant with the Warriors. So like, okay, yeah, you got 2 titles, but we're not really giving you full credit. And it's just so bizarre to me that Kobe plays with one all-time great teammate his entire 20-year career, and those 3 rings just don't count at all to some people. LeBron's had that for all 4 of his rings.
It's absolutely crazy. And just to really put a bow on the Jokić thing, I did a breakdown of what Dwayne Wade did the year prior to LeBron and him teaming up. Like, what was his MVP finish? What was his advanced analytics, the player efficiency rating, box plus minus, value over replacement, win share. The most accurate comp in today's year, like around the 2024 season, the most accurate comp to Dwayne Wade would have been Luka Doncic that year.
Wow.
So it basically would have been if Nikola Jokić went to Luka Doncic's team, and then they recruited Anthony Davis, basically, would have been the comp for Chris Bosh. Like, that is essentially what, if Nikola Jokić did exactly apples to apples what LeBron did, that's what it would be. And that's not what I was asking. That's not, when I say I want Jokić to get the hell out of Denver, it's not, I'm not trying to
Just
get
maybe like an all defensive player or maybe an all-star fringe guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But to your Kobe point, though, real quick. Yes, absolutely, unequivocally. Like, Kobe has played with two top 75 players in his entire career. Just two. Shaquille O'Neal for the first 8 years of his career, and then Steve Nash, when Steve Nash was 38 years old.
I forgot about Steve Nash, yeah.
Right, but he only played 50 games that year because he was so injured at that point. And that was the year Kobe ruptured his Achilles, so they didn't even get a playoff run together. So that is literally it. That Kobe played with for his entire career. It seems like LeBron has top 50 to 75 players, on every team since he was 26 years old.
Every single season.
He always needs more, Stephen. He needs more, because if he's not winning, it doesn't matter if he has a top 3-5 player on his team or whatever. Like, he needs more. It's not enough. If the great LeBron is incapable of winning with the pieces he has around him, it's not his fault. It's got to be the supporting players and the front office for not putting the right players around him, of course.
Yeah, and honestly, Jay, if I had the editing talent and any knowledge of YouTube whatsoever like you do, I would do it myself, but I'd rather you do it and, no pressure. But I'd love to see a video where we take the clips of what the same people said at the time of the Luka trade and then show the recent clips of what they're saying now, 5-6 months later, because it's just disgusting how many excuses this guy needs. I mean, like just the Lakers in the playoffs this last season. How many people on FS1 and ESPN, Lakers in 5 and all that crap, picked them to win the championship or at least get to the conference finals? And then when they get smoked in the first round, I hear people saying LeBron's the best player on the team. And it's not his fault. It's Luka's fat and, they don't have a center and all that. Well, where was that intel when you picked them?
Yeah, it seems like it is literally every year. I tell this story often. It's just so funny to me. Chris Carter, Hall of Fame wide receiver, most known for his time spent with the Minnesota Vikings, but he started his career off in Philadelphia, and he had some off-field transgressions early on in his career. Was mixed up with some negative elements, and almost derailed his entire career. So they have rookie symposiums every year for the incoming, first year players into the NFL. And they have various veterans come in and talk about their experience and, things to avoid or, how to target success. And they had Chris Carter on, and, presumptively he was just going to talk about how, he made mistakes early on and how to avoid it. And he dead serious. Like, it was not a joke. He said, you have to have yourself a fall guy. Like, you have to have yourself a fall guy in your group.
I forgot about that. But yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of LeBron. You've got to have yourself a scapegoat or a fall guy if you're LeBron. Like, and it's typically, unfortunately for them, the best player on the team other than him, or maybe even better than him. Like, I think AD has been better than him for the last couple of years, and Luka obviously is. But of course, those are the primary fall guys. It can't be LeBron ever.
Well, and even the guys and gals that support LeBron James acknowledge this stuff. They just don't acknowledge the reason. Like, I know Shannon Sharpe, I was a big Undisputed fan before they started sexually assaulting everybody, I guess. But anyway, but I remember even Shannon Sharpe, who's one of the ultimate LeBron guys. I can't remember who the shooter was, but they traded for one of these top shooters, and he said, yeah, the lights get bright when they're playing with LeBron. They don't shoot as well. It was Malik Beasley. That's who it was. Malik Beasley. And he's like, yeah, and they're trashing Malik Beasley, who had a killer season this last year with the Pistons. And I'm like, well, all I've heard this guy's whole career is he makes his teammates better because he's so unselfish. Who are the teammates that he makes better? Because everybody I see play with him, their legacy gets destroyed. Anthony Davis goes from a top 5 player to street clothes. Dwayne Wade goes from a top 3 player to washed up and injury riddled. Chris Bosh is Bosch Spice. I mean, who does he make better?
Even let me layer this one in on you too. Kevin Love, I talk about this name a lot too. I just want to give him a shout out. That guy was he was top 3 the year before he teamed up with Kyrie and LeBron in Cleveland. He was top 3 in PER, BPM, value over replacement, and win share. Top 3 in all of those metrics. And he was second second team All NBA that year. Second only because he's a forward by designation. And Kevin Durant and LeBron James were first team forwards that year. Otherwise, and those were the guys that were in those top 3 and those 4 advanced metrics I just mentioned. So Kevin Love was pretty much a fringe top 5 to 6 player himself that year prior to going to team up in Cleveland and destroyed him too.
I don't want to cut. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but you've hit another pressure point for me there. So your boy here made a video, which I don't do very often on sports. It got a whopping 21 views, but I did the screen. He was ranked on ESPN rank best players, the 4th best player in the NBA that year. You can be my 22nd view. Go check it out.
I will do that, and I got to echo your message on that too. That's, like I said, top 5 to 6 player, and then all of a sudden he's a bum all of a sudden in Cleveland when he goes to team up with LeBron.
It's sickening. I do feel like, and I don't know, I mean, I've heard you say on your channel that you're kind of a pessimist, I mean, with this stuff, and I don't know if I am or not, but I've seen LeBron shift, like I said earlier, when he went to Miami, and I'm like, oh, good, we got him now. He can't get his way out of this. I've seen him shift the narrative so many times. Like I always expect that's what's going to happen. It feels like he's walking into a unique situation he hasn't been in before his entire life, really, because he's been catered to even as a child and a teenager and so on, to where he's not going to be the star of stars. And I'll throw this at you. Knowing him being kind of a narcissist the way he appears to be, I would assume he wants a great farewell tour. Where is he going to get that farewell tour? Because it's not going to be with the Lakers, not how he wants it.
LeBron has been put in a very difficult situation by the Luka trade. So, and that's the thing where I was kind of excited when the trade was made because I foresaw this end game coming where LeBron has structured everything to be in LA and to finish his career in LA. Yeah. And lo and behold, the franchise has decided to move on from him. They were presented with an opportunity to get Luka, and they took it. And then with the sale of the team now, Mark Walter comes in as the owner, and he just doesn't have any positive feelings for LeBron at this point. I think in a perfect world, I think LeBron would have declined the player option in terms of the Lakers. He would have declined the player option this summer and just left the franchise now and let them start building towards Luka. But you absolutely hit the nail on the head. LeBron is going to want some kind of a grandiose tour that's just about him. And it's the Lakers. Not only is it about Luka, but they want it to be about winning. They don't want this disruption of these nightly LeBron antic tours for the next 2 years now, or at least for the entire next season. Like they want to move on and try to capitalize around Luka Doncic and start winning and competing for championships. So I think LeBron, the writing is on the wall. LeBron is not going to retire at the end of this season. And I think he is not going to be a Laker next season. I think that much is obvious. So now the question shifts to, like you said, where? And I honestly, I don't have the crystal ball to see it. I have to be honest with you. He's either going to go to some, subpar team that he can just be the quote best player, jack up 20 shots a night, go to, these different arenas every night and have it be all about him. Or he's going to want to go try to compete for a championship. But none of these contenders that he has been linked to, such as like maybe a return to Cleveland or Dallas, they don't have the cap structure to fit him in. Yeah. So he's gonna have to take, the vet minimum or the mid-level exception. Can you see a world where LeBron goes from making $55 million this year to like 3 or 4 next season? I don't see that.
No. And that goes back to the ego. And again, I feel like this is kind of, maybe other people would laugh at me saying that, but I feel like I'm being pro LeBron a little bit here because I feel bad for him because you can just feel how weak he is, right? Like mentally weak. Infuriates me that every freaking time that LeBron and his contract gets brought up, going back 5-10 years now, they bring up Kobe signing what wasn't a max deal. You know where I'm going with it. When he tore his Achilles and the Lakers offered him, I think it was 2 years for $48 million, which is today what a role player would get. But, and they said, well, yeah, Kobe taking all that money. That's why the team, Kobe would have played for whatever made sense, I believe. LeBron can't do that because his ego won't allow him to take 10, 12 million when somebody else is making 40 or 50.
Exactly. And the thing with the Lakers, a lot of people talk about how lucky Kobe Bryant was to be a Laker. I actually don't see it that way. I think it was a detriment to him and to his overall legacy.
Agreed.
I think they actively kind of sabotaged his career in multiple different stages, and one of which being the roster they surrounded him with, and the coach that they picked with Mike D'Antoni, for the twilight years of Kobe's career. Like the Lakers essentially admitted, like, we don't have the roster to compete at all. So we might as well just give Kobe the money and let him just draw in, sell tickets for us, like keep us, somewhat newsworthy because of just his presence. If they were actually trying to build a championship caliber team around him at that point, he would have taken less, to your point.
So if you had to, for your gut, what do you see LeBron doing then? I mean, obviously Cleveland makes the most sense, but Dan Gilbert's no fan. He doesn't want to help him roll it out.
I mean, like I said, Cleveland is arguably the best team in the Eastern Conference at this point. Boston has gutted their team, and they are going to be without Tatum for the entire year with the Achilles. And then who knows how he comes back thereafter. The Knicks are going to be there. The Pacers, who the representative of the East last year, like, they're without Halliburton now for the whole year because he ruptured his Achilles. So, I mean, you can make a really real case here that the Cleveland they won 60, I think 64 games, second to only Oklahoma City this past season. So probably for the next year or two, they have this window and they have a roster that's already pretty loaded and stacked up. Like, I just don't think they have room for LeBron James. I think what makes the most sense would be Dallas, honestly.
Yeah.
He can mentor another very, heralded blue chip caliber guy in Cooper Flagg, and he can re-team with Kyrie and AD. He's got Jason Kidd there, who Kidd was an assistant coach, I believe, on the 2020 bubble Laker championship team. So that Dallas makes the most sense to me. It can't happen this year unless it's a buyout, and I don't think the Lakers are going to do that. So it would have to be next season in free agency. But again, like, looking at the structure of the book and their contracts, it's going to be some kind of a vet minimum for LeBron. So like he really has to dig deep and search his soul. I honestly, Stephen, have a gun to my head, I think his ego will be too big. I think he's probably going to end up in some lower tier team where he can just go and be the marquee show pony and just go about his little retirement tour and maybe take Bronny along with him.
I forgot about Bronny. Yeah. You know what my biggest fear with it is, Scav, honestly, is that, and honestly, this is what I hope I'm wrong. This is what I think is probably going to happen is he's going to survey the landscape, like you said, find out there's not a perfect fit. And he's just going to continue to hold the Lakers hostage, maybe take 25, 30 million, 40, something like that. Cause that's probably where he'll still get the most money. Unless, like you said, the new ownership has some balls and they decide to stop playing this game with him that Jeannie Buss has been playing. And I think he's just going to continue to suck them dry and then have the media say what a great guy he is for only taking 37 million or whatever it is. I hope I'm wrong.
It will be interesting. Luka, because remember, Luka signed technically a 3-year, I think 165 million contract, but he's got a player option in year 3. So they're still working to kind of appease him and sell him on them. They have 2 guaranteed years to do it. So if LeBron is still, piggybacking around and kind of bringing them down and his opportunities at competing, I mean, that's a delicate tightrope that the Lakers are going to have to walk.
Yeah. All right. So I got 2 more sports stuff for you, and then I get into the entrepreneurial stuff with you here. You alluded to something I've thought a lot about, but it's just so amazing to me, the difference. And this is something that people don't think about. And it could be for any sport with any player. The place you come into when you're talking about Kobe being drafted by the Lakers. And we both remember, what it was like in the 90s when he got drafted, and you had Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel, which I was a huge Nick Van Exel guy, by the way, but you had them in front of him, and it was an era where teenagers coming out of high school weren't playing. It didn't matter if you were Kobe or Kevin Garnett or whoever else. It wasn't like how it is today. The difference that he had to fight through just to get on the court. And then later in his career, like you said, the mismanagement, and this is bizarre, where you have a all-time great player like Shaquille O'Neal and you trade him for a bag of chips and Lamar Odom. I mean, it's just a joke. And even Phil Jackson, who I really respect Phil Jackson, and I guess I like him, but he held Kobe back. You've probably seen the story where Kobe had whatever it was, 9 straight 40-point games, 8, whatever it was. And then Phil went to him, we're losing the big guy. You've got to dial it back with this streak. And Kobe had 38 the next game and decided not to go for 40. And it's amazing the difference it makes when you're in an environment like that, where you're literally being told not to score. You're literally being told don't hold the team back with your star shining bright, versus something like LeBron and other people come into where it's all about you. We want to showcase you. What type of an impact in general, not even Kobe, LeBron, do you think that has on sports, the environment that you're drafted into? It can completely change a player's legacy.
Absolutely. And it might not be as prevalent in the NBA. I'm a big NFL fan too. I follow football every bit as closely as I do the NBA. And I mean, it can make or break your entire career, your entire legacy. I mean, especially if you're, like a quarterback or a wide receiver, like what kind of, offense are you getting drafted into? If you're a wide receiver, what kind of quarterback do you have there? And if you're a quarterback, what kind of structure do you have? What kind of coaching do you have? I mean, it can make such a great impact on you. And, some players, I mean, they just get the raw end of the stick, and some are kind of uplifted because they go to good situations and they're managed better and they're presented with better opportunities. As it pertains to Kobe Bryant, as we know, he was actually drafted by Charlotte and traded to the Lakers on draft night. Yeah. And had he just stayed in Charlotte, had the trade never gone through, he would have gone to a team that was structured and built around him. I did a little examination of his first 2 years in the league, times that he was allowed to shoot like 18 times or more. And
my favorite stat you've ever done, by the way. That's great.
And he was scoring like 24, 25 points per game when he got the freedom to shoot that amount of times. It's just he only got the ability to do it like 12 or 13 times in his first 2 full years. But when you look at all these other guys, the Michael Jordans, the Kevin Durants, the LeBron Jameses, they come in shooting 18, 19, 20 times a game from their first season in the league. Yeah. And then not only that, once Kobe finally became a starter, well, he had to defer to Shaquille O'Neal and play within the context and the confines of that triangle system for the first full 8 years of his career. So, I mean, if Kobe went to Charlotte, stayed there, and he could just become the focal point of an offense from year one. And Stephen, mind you, that Eastern Conference was garbage for like 20 years at that point. From like
all-time weak.
Right? Like that's the East that LeBron was running and going to all those finals. I think Kobe would have he would have won a minimum of 3 championships still in my estimation, if not more. He probably would have gotten to more than the 7 that he went to, but he also would have, to me, been the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. Yeah. He probably would have had a top 2 point per game average along with Michael Jordan. And I think he would have had at least three league MVPs. I mean, that's looking like a better career than what he actually had in LA, because he gets denigrated and diminished all the time because he played with Shaq for those first 3.
Let me ask you this, though, because I've thought about this a lot, and I feel exactly the same way you just said. And I feel like even if he would have went to the Clippers or the Bulls when his first contract was up, it would have been that kind of deal. But if that had happened, do you think that people like us would love him as much as we do? Because I feel like part of the reason I love him is because he had to overcome all this crap.
That's very fair. And that's part of just such a great point. People, and they say like, well, if Kobe could have just, somehow swallowed his pride a bit and stayed with Shaq longer, he would have won more. If he didn't push through injuries as much as he did, he wouldn't have had such a negative impact on his body. He would have stayed longer, had a better longevity. His numbers would look better. But that's not the way Kobe Bryant was wired. Like the way his mentality and the way that he did things was the reason why he was as great as that he was. Like it couldn't have gone any other way that it did. So it's a great point, and I think Kobe Bryant, the reason he's such an impactful not just player but person, I think, and the reason he engenders such a fond following now, even after his death, and transcends sports really, is just because of the mindset that he had to accept the challenges and to overcome them. And he wasn't a perfect person. Like he was flawed. He was a flawed person at times, and obviously like had flaws in his game at times. But like just the way that he attacked the challenges and overcame, like that's the epitome of Kobe Bryant.
Even like even the last 3 years of his career after the Achilles tear, I mean, that was pretty rough, I'm sure, for you too, and for me watching it. Just because the team around him was garbage. He obviously wasn't himself. I think he played 6 games the first year back, and then 35 the next. Actually, Skap, do you remember though the second year back after the Achilles, he was leading the league in scoring for like the first month of the season. It's horrible shooting percentage, but when he had his last game and he dropped 60, I said, you know what? The last 3 years were all worth it because it just felt perfect.
And I think Stephen, you were in the building for that game,
I was just
right?
I was just going to ask you about the guy. You were as well, correct?
That's right. Yep. It was. I actually, my mom is a big Kobe fan, but she doesn't fly. So we went to his third to last game ever together in New Orleans, and we drove from Pittsburgh together. And the tickets were much more reasonable, of course, as you can imagine, in New Orleans than they were for that finale in Staples Center against the Jazz. And so my mom and I sat about 2 or 3 rows off the court and at like mid court, like right behind the Lakers bench.
Wow.
And you could see when Kobe came off, like it was apparent that he really wasn't planning on playing the fourth quarter because they entombed him in ice. Like he had like this saran wrap running from his like shoulder down to his wrist on both arms, his entire like knees and calves just like wrapped in saran wrap and ice. And I mean, this guy he basically couldn't move. And the whole arena just stood and were chanting for him, from basically the beginning of the fourth quarter to the midpoint, and he begrudgingly like had the trainers tear off all the ice and stuff and ran out and chucked up a couple more shots. But I remember I showed up very early in the day. Then I think it was 3 days later in LA. And I was, like the second or third person in line outside the door waiting to get in. And I was talking to these 2 guys from Sacramento that came down for the game. And it became apparent that I was a Kobe historian and a huge fan. And they asked me what my expectations were for the game. And I said, you know what, like just seeing him a few days ago, he can barely move.
Yeah.
I would love it if he could score 30. But like, I just hope that he doesn't embarrass himself. Like, I don't want like
That's how I felt too. Yeah.
Right. Like, I just don't want 15 or 20 points. And wouldn't you know it, that son of a bitch went out and scored 60. Like it, and the last 15 points and the game winner, like it was just, it was a microcosm of his entire career, like fighting through the obstacles and the challenges and the adversity to produce something truly special.
Oh, man. And I got to tell you my story with that game. So I was working on a property. I had flown into Salt Lake City, Utah that morning at like 6 a.m. I'd left my car there because I was working on a property, and I was driving back to Northern California from Salt Lake City. And for those that know the West Coast, you drive through a town called Elko, Nevada. And on that 8-hour drive driving, I was like, I knew the game was that night. And I was like, I've watched this guy for 20. I can't miss his last game. So I pulled over at a Marriott in the middle of nowhere in Elko, in a Fairfield Marriott. I bought a ticket last second. Then I kept on driving instead of stopping in Sacramento. I kept on driving to San Francisco, flew down, got there right before game time. And that was the most incredible sporting event that I've ever, similar to yourself, actually. I'm not even making it up or kidding with you, but somebody, I was talking with them before the game, and I said, I hope he gets 20. And then it didn't start out good. Remember, he was missing some shots at first. Yep. And that second half, How did you feel walking out of there? Because walking out of there, I just felt like I was in a cloud.
It's arguably the pinnacle of my life that I was that
Yes.
I was
Let's
that I was in
go.
that
Let's
and
go.
I say it only half jokingly because like there were obviously at Staples Center, so there are these marquee celebrities and like very successful famous people all over the place, and they kept showing them on the jumbotron like throughout the fourth quarter, and they looked like little kids, like they were having the best day of their lives
Yeah.
too. Like it, but that was just the magic of that moment. It was I listened to I guess it was no, pardon the interruption with Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser the next day. And Wilbon said that, I've been covering sports for 30 years. I've been to everything, Super Bowls, Olympics, World Series. That was probably the most electric live event, sporting event that I've ever been to. So, I mean, that really just says it all, I think.
Yeah. And you remember they had those t-shirts they were selling that had like Kobe's accomplishments, and on the t-shirt it said 5 career 60-point games. And I was screaming, you got to change the t-shirt. You got to change anyway. No, that's awesome. Where did you sit? Where were your seats for that one? I mean,
Oh,
those
I
were
was not.
pretty
It
spendy.
wasn't. They weren't great. It was like middle tier kind of. But it was the seats were the tickets were it was just like they were crazy. But like you said, like whatever. There's really no value you could put on like that. It was an invaluable moment. Now looking back, I honestly wish I sprung and really made it rain to get even lower down into the tier, because what an electric atmosphere in the arena. And then like you said in Figueroa afterwards, when you got out, like just crazy.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Okay, so let me ask you. So, what's your favorite? Before we get off of Kobe, and then we'll get into all the other stuff. Give me your, other than the one we just talked about, what are your favorite Kobe moments? Because I am going to, for those that don't know, I'm going to air this. We're recording this about a week and a half before, but we'll be airing this on Kobe Bryant's birthday.
Yeah, I'll probably do some. I talked to you off air here, so to speak, that I'm gonna my very high stakes and competitive fantasy football draft is on the 24th. And Kobe, of course, his birthday is 8/20. I believe 8/23/78 was his
Yes,
birthday.
sir. Yep.
Um, and then of course International Mamba Day the next day, 8/24. So I'll do something special. The last year is it might just be so simple as me reposting my like 20-minute Kobe goat case video, which I put up around that 8/23 8/24 time. But I think honestly, it's weird to say, but the finale is probably my top moment. Weirdly enough, I saw him play live maybe 40 times, but
Oh,
that
wow.
one, just with the context of everything that was involved with it, that's got to be one that's very high up there. Maybe number one all time for me. I was also it was either when he passed Shaq or Jordan. I want to say maybe it was when he passed Shaq.
He
But
passed Jordan, I remember, against the Timberwolves. I don't remember who they played when he passed Shaq.
Okay, so it must have been Shaq then, because I lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years, and I had this package of, I could pick like 10 or 15. I had like a not a full season package, but like I had this thing where I could pick 10 to 15 games every year. So obviously I always picked Kobe's homecoming to Philly. And I was there. I think it must have been when he passed Shaq on the all-time scoring list. So that was that one's up there. I also would have to say the game seven, I know he didn't shoot well. I get it. But the game seven against Boston in the finals, what that game and series meant to him and his legacy,
Yeah.
the fact that he was at 4 championships at that point, and this was going to be for back to back. It was going to be to avenge that humiliating, I think it was like a 37-point loss in game
Yeah.
six 2 years earlier to Boston in Boston. They were down 3-2 in that series. It did not look good. If you remember, like mid
Yeah.
third, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
down double digits. It was an
I've
extraordinarily
never
low
been on
scoring
more
game.
pins and needles watching a game than that.
Absolutely. And then, to have, the difference between 4 and 5, I think was going to be monumental. And just the fact that he would have been able to beat his, the Lakers, bitter rival in Boston, and the team, like I said, that did it to Kobe 2 years earlier. So that game 7, it was just that was just a magical game, a magical series that I think that game 7, and I was actually watching that game with my mom, who, like I said, was a big Kobe Bryant fan. So that game and that moment has a very high spot on my all-time Kobe list as well.
That was a great one. That's the reason why I still love Ron Artest to this day, is that game there. But yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because and you've talked a lot about it on your channel and illustrated it. But that's the other one. There's like a dozen or so things that these idiots on mainstream media like to bring up, and the 6 for 24 is high on the list that they just love to talk about. But I mean, it was an old school rock chuck, defensive minded game. Not to get too far off on it again, because I want to transition here, but I mean, 15 rebound, I think it what 24 points, 15 rebound, right? And
correct. And he was still the highest scoring player on either team, still scored the most points of any player on either team in the fourth quarter. And like you said, 81-78, I believe, was the final score in that game. Like, both teams were under 40% shooting, I think, for the game. So nobody shot well. It was just all out defense, balls to the wall. I mean, it was just a quintessential low scoring, very hard defensively fought series in what was the best defensive era in league history.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, and it shows too, and I'll ask you, I mean, I'm a sports stats nerd. You obviously are a historian, and I'll ask you, because I can't think of any. Can you think of any other player in NBA Finals history that we know what their shooting percentage was? The 6 from a game. I can't, and that's how much they've tried to dismantle Kobe's legacy, is that everybody knows 6 for 24. I couldn't tell you what Michael Jordan's worst shooting performance was in the finals. I know he had a bad one against the Sonics, but I don't know what it was. I sure as hell couldn't tell you LeBron's, because they won't talk about that.
Exactly. No, it's just one of the further narratives that are pushed, to try to discredit Kobe, the fact that he's an inefficient volume scorer. So, of course, nothing's ever taken into context with the era that he was playing in, and what the true shooting and effective field goal percentages were, league-wide averages. Kobe was always above those things.
Yeah. You had a great video a week or two ago where you pointed that out, and you were talking about it, and I didn't know. I think off the top of my head, you said Dirk Nowitzki in his finals when they won, didn't he shoot like 41%, 42%? Yep. Yeah, it's shocking, but you don't hear about that. Anyway, so I got to ask you while we got you here, just for the fun, simple narrative stuff. So officially, can I get your top 10 all-time players from you?
I'll give you, so I am working on a video, which I keep, as you know, because you watch a lot of my lives. I tease this top 10 video all the time it's actually going to hopefully be coming out sometime in the next month. But I'll give you, it's weird. I don't really have, it's like my top anything. I always leave like the last spot open for a couple honorable mentions. So I don't have like I don't think I have like an official top 10, but I'll give you my 9. I'll do that. And
fair enough.
Typically it's not, I would say not in any specific order, but I do. Jordan and Kobe are top 2 in my estimation. Yeah. So that's my 1 and 2 spot. Then I've got Kareem still. I'm considering a movement down for Kareem, but as of right now, at the time of recording this, Kareem is still 3. I then have kind of one that surprises people. Duncan is then 4th. So that is my official Mount Rushmore. Those 4 players. 4 elite two-way players. All won at least 5 championships. 3 of the 4 have at least 10 All-NBA defensive selections. Jordan was the only one who doesn't of that grouping, but Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year, and he played less than those 3 guys. And he has 9 first-team selections. So just, 4 elite, all-time great two-way players and all elite winners with at least 5. I then actually have Hakeem next. Hakeem Olajuwon. So I'm a little bit higher than consensus on him too. I usually see him floating around 10 through 13-ish, but again, the guy's peak was just so high. I kind of liken him to Giannis and Nikola Jokić today. He just, quite frankly, did not have the support from his franchise or have the requisite supporting cast to compete for like a ton of championships. But as a two-way player, he's really unrivaled, other than, the four guys I've already mentioned. So those are pretty hard set top five for me right now. Then after that, I've got Bird and Magic in there. Up next, pretty much in 6 and 7, Russell and Wilt then in 8 and 9, and then the honorable mentions. There's maybe 5, 6, 7 guys that I throw in there. I'll even concede that guys like Steph Curry and LeBron James have a case to be at that 10th spot. They wouldn't necessarily be my 10th selection. I like Dr. J to be kind of an honorable mention there as well, if you look at his ABA career with his NBA career. And then I really do believe Giannis and Jokić are nipping at the heels of some of these honorable mentions, and they will have an outside shot maybe to get some kind of a mention into the 10th spot.
Not my guy Moses, though. You don't have Moses up?
He's definitely honorable mention range too. He's top 15, I'd say 15 to 16. 3 MVPs definitely warrants some kind of a notice there, and pretty high on the all-time list scoring as well. I think I want to say he's like 12th or 13th all time on the scoring list with those 3 league MVPs. So yeah, Moses gets he gets a little shout out as well.
I wasn't sure if I was going to bring it up, but now I have to. So this says something about me, and my wife would say this is a flaw. But I find somebody that I love, that I'm a big fan of, that I agree with everything on, and I try to find something that I disagree with them on. And there's one thing that I have here. So it's a light disagreement, because I love Tim Duncan too. What I feel like has happened is, and it's the last, 3-4 years here, everybody says the same sentence. They say, "Oh, Tim Duncan's underrated." But if everybody says someone's underrated, then they're not underrated, right? And I think it's yet another way to discredit Kobe, to try, because obviously they were drafted a year apart or 2 years apart. No, a year apart. And to say that was his era, those of us that actually watched it, I listened to Bill Simmons. He makes an argument that Tim Duncan was the face of the league. He was never the face of the league, in my opinion. All-time great player. If someone wanted to make an argument that he's better than LeBron James, then that's obviously, to me, that's a fair discussion. He owned him in the finals, But to put Tim Duncan even in the same league as Kobe, I think we got to watch out for that. Your response?
No, I agree. Even though I am high on Tim Duncan, primarily just because, the way I kind of value players, and look, I have some. Right now, Magic Johnson is my worst defender in my top 10-ish, my top 9 or 10. Ultimately, look, I don't think Nikola Jokić, I think he gets a lot of shit for being a bad defender. I think he's actually an underrated defender. We've reached a point where he's actually better than what consensus is. But him, if he gets into my top 10, which that is the trajectory that he will be in my top 10 at some point, Magic and Jokić would be the only really 2 non-great defenders in my top 10. And so the thing that I really value is, two-way players, which Duncan is like. Kobe and Duncan, actually, cumulatively, those 2 players they're 1 and 2. They have the most combined All-NBA and All-NBA defensive selections in league history, Duncan and Kobe. And then the other thing that I really talk up a lot, or that I really care about when I'm making these kind of listicles or rankings, is like, how difficult were your rings? Like, not only, of course, I want to see a lot of them, which Hakeem at 5 only had 2 and Jokić only has 1 currently. But when I'm evaluating the rings, how difficult were they? I think Duncan and Kobe, actually, for guys that were dynastic, because they both have 5, that's while they might not have been on individual, if they weren't on team dynasties, they were an individual dynasty in and of themselves, their own right. So I think when you look at their supporting casts, they, other than Jordan, probably had kind of the weakest supporting cast to get to those 5. So that's kind of, those are just in a as truncated as I can. That's kind of why I think highly of Duncan. He's won. Kobe actually is the only player ever to win back-to-back titles without another top 75 player. but Duncan actually does have they're not back to back, but he does have multiple titles without a top 75 guy. So those are two of the only, really, I think they might be the only two players you can say that about. Other than I think Steph Curry has two as well without a top
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. I just don't feel like he's in Kobe's class, but we agree.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, look, I think Jordan and Kobe are of their own tier. Like I see these like GOAT pyramids things like on X or whatever. And the ones that have just Jordan and Kobe at the top, and then it's another tier separately for everybody else. That's the way I see it. I think Kobe got a lot closer to Jordan than a lot of people want to admit for whatever reason. I think it's really razor close, actually. I think Jordan's more accomplished and has more accolades. And I think Jordan, I do recognize Jordan as being the top spot, but I think Kobe's very, very close. And I don't think really realistically anybody else is close to those two.
Yeah. It is weird, too, to your point about the defensive side of things. It's funny, everybody cares about it when they're playing, like on a season by season basis, but it seems like mainstream doesn't take that into account at all when all-time rankings are brought into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand it. Maybe it's because there's really no good two-way players left today, other than like really Giannis is the only guy I think. And I guess look, you could put Kawhi Leonard in there, but Kawhi's not healthy enough generally for me to talk about in any kind of an impactful way. But I mean, Giannis is, I think he has 4 or 5 first team all defensive selections. He won Defensive Player of the Year. Along with Jordan and Hakeem, those are the only 3 players in league history to accomplish that feat. So, but other than that, like you just don't see it. Like look at the top flight players today. Luka, Nikola Jokić.
Yeah.
Not really highly decorated defensive players. Even Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is presented as this elite two-way player, but he's like the 5th best defender on his own team. So,
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing this, preponderance of all of these great two-way players. So maybe modern and current media is just forgetting that a lot of elite players did play both ways back in the day.
Yeah. All right. I could keep going on the sports, but I'm going to get into the other stuff here. So we talked a little bit at the top about what led you to start the channel and all that. Obviously, you mentioned a couple of names with Tom Cruise and Jim Rome there, but I was curious, so what sports media personalities have inspired you over the years? And are there any mainstream media sports personalities now that do inspire you?
I admire Michael Wilbon and Kornheiser to mention. I grew up watching that show, Pardon the Interruption or whatever. I always confuse Pardon the Interruption Around the Horn. I think it's PTI was the one that those two were on.
Yeah.
That started, I think, and us being the same age, it started, I think, when we were in high school. So I kind of grew up watching those two, and I didn't mention this real quick. I don't want to sidebar, but I was at not only Kobe's last game, but Michael Jordan's last game that he played with the Wizards. So his last game in the NBA was in Philadelphia, and I was in Pittsburgh at the time. So I made the trek to go to Michael. I was at Michael Jordan's last game as well, and weirdly enough, I'm a Tom Brady guy, and I live near-ish to Tampa, and I was at the Cowboys Buccaneers game, his last game ever.
Wow.
So I was at Tom Brady,
Michael Jordan,
Kobe Bryant's last games ever played. But I actually walked with Michael Wilbon for about 20 minutes from the parking lot into the arena during Jordan's last game. And he was just a great guy, really very friendly and accommodating. So, I've just been a fan of his throughout the years. But in terms of people that inspire me or whatever, it would have to be Jim Rome. People mention it. It's not a conscious thing that I do. But I guess I have some of my delivery, and I guess even like my tone and voice that sometimes remind people, like they'll ask me in the comments at times, like, are you a big Jim Rome fan or whatever? Because, there's some elements that are reminiscent. It's not intentional. It's just that I've watched or listened to Rome since I was probably 7 or 8 years old at this point, and he is a guy that, like, he's just been kind of like my idol in terms of on the sports broadcasting side of things.
How does it make you feel? Because I was wondering what he was doing now, and I guess he has a YouTube channel. And like I said earlier, I was a Skip Bayless. I'm sure you at least kind of sort of liked Skip at one point because he articulated some of the things we're talking about. How does it make you feel that you have videos that are crushing two of your idols? That's kind of cool.
It's I mean, it definitely is humbling. And even I know you're probably aware, but I don't know if everyone in your audience is, that I do work with Jason Whitlock from time to time
That's
as
right.
well.
Yeah.
And I've been probably on his show, I don't know, 40 or 50 times now at this point over the last 2 years. And I was in studio with him for a week earlier, around April of this year. I went to Nashville and I was in studio with him. So, and I grew up watching him too. Like, he was on the sports reporters when I was in grade school and high school. So, it was kind of like like a fangirl type moment when he reached out to me the first time. But and he's got a huge channel. I mean, he's got 500,000 subs and probably, I don't know, 300 or 400 million channel views. But on a per video to video release basis, like, my daily videos kind of outdraw his a lot of the time. So it is humbling to see just some random guy that likes to talk shit about sports that in his late 30s decided to start this thing, has got to this point relatively quickly.
And that's what's fun about it too. And I guess that's a perfect segue into one of the things I wanted to get your opinion on as someone who's living it at the highest level. It's fascinating to me, and so we're the same age, but in my brain, I'm kind of like a 75-year-old man. And so I was really slow to YouTube. And it was just the last 3 or 4 years that I started watching. And it's wild to me. And I think it's a blessing in a way that people like yourself that wouldn't have had a voice even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago, can overnight have a massive audience, have a massive voice, and get a different perspective out there. That's a beautiful thing. And in the case, and I guess I'm a hypocrite, because in the case of people I like you, I think it's great. Then I see some people that have massive millions of audiences, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, what are they even talking about? What are they doing? How do you feel about just where media is today? And it's kind of the line between celebrity and everyday people is blurred to me to some extent.
Yeah, it's just so different. Things have changed. Like, our generation, kind of like our age demographic, like, we've seen just a massive shift from just news, the way news is disseminated, reported, whatever. Over our lifespans, it's been absolutely shocking to see. It's almost to the point where traditional media outlets are just all but dead. Like, newspapers, magazines, like print periodicals really aren't a thing at all anymore. And even television is kind of like, all of these, like ESPNs, all of the CNNs, Fox Newses, all of that stuff, like, they have to have these accompanying kind of, either YouTube channels, or they're on X as well. And a lot of people just digest their news or get their news in these alternative ways now. But to your point, anybody and everybody with a handle or whatever can just hop on, any of these platforms and start talking about whatever they want to talk about and try to build an audience. So it's honestly, it's crazy. Like, I've sat back for years, kind of like I said at the beginning of my journey, or when I got out of college, I was kind of in the media for like 2 years, and then I diverted down a different path. And I was sitting in my late 30s, and I'm thinking, like, well, it's just, I procrastinated, or I was just too inundated with other things, and it's just over for me. Like, I don't really have like a path to get back in it at this point. Like, I don't know how to do it. And luckily, like, people around me, like my wife she was really into YouTube at the time, and I really never watched YouTube. So I started watching, or eavesdropping and overhearing some of the people she was watching and listening to. I'm like, well, these people kind of stink. And then I looked at they had, a couple 100,000, subscribers. I'm like, well, I could do that. I could do that. So, I just kind of started doing it. And, you don't want to compare yourself. Like, I see some, like, to your point, I see people with bigger voices, bigger platforms than me, and I still look at them, and I'm, from a competitive standpoint, I'm like, well, I'm better than them right now. Like, why? Like, how am I not, have I not reached that level or whatever at this point? But, comparisons are dangerous, I think, in this landscape. And I also just have to stay grounded and look at all of the people around me that have been doing it for 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, and they're still, struggling to just kind of get started, in terms of the audience that I've amassed. So I just have to just be grateful for what I have and just keep working as hard as I can to get bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, and just I mean, as you can tell, and I don't watch anything other than sports content, and you are, and I'm not saying it to suck up to you or because you're here. You really are. I mean, and that's why I love it so much. It's just a beautiful thing because combination of delivery, you got the look, you're a handsome guy, not as handsome as me, but that's okay, and articulate. I mean, it's at the top tier, and I don't want to insult anybody either. And I don't know, these people might be some of your friends, but I saw some of the stuff you were doing earlier on, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking these guys are all great. That's fine, but they're not in the same tier. And to me, you're kind of like Kobe in '98, to where everybody who watched him play was like, wow, this guy's got it. We just have to give him the opportunity. But how do you decide, as you're navigating the waters of YouTube, and it's such a thing that's still evolving every day to where everybody, I think, is trying to figure it out to some extent. How do you decide where you're going to collaborate or what you're going to do from a content standpoint? How do you pick the videos you do? Because it's got to be tough for you, since you're genuinely passionate about the things you talk about. You're not really looking at it from a clickbait standpoint, or does that come into play at all? Do you say, okay, this topic's going to perform better than this one?
Well, yeah, like we were talking about at the beginning, like I'm getting to the point finally now after like 2 years that I'm starting to at least acknowledge the fact that this is a business, and I have to start thinking about it as if it were a business. But at the heart of that, though, the messaging and the content is always going to be things that I'm passionate about and that I really want to discuss or want to talk about. But absolutely, like I know going in when I'm working on a video, like I know it's gonna hit or it's not gonna hit for the most part. Very very seldom do I put something up and it either underwhelms or overwhelms what my expectation is. After, at the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything about the algorithm. Now, I think I've published 550 videos, I think,
Oh, I didn't know that.
over the last 2 years. So yeah, now I kind of know what I'm looking at and what to expect from from video to video. But I think the one element of it is on some days there's certainly some stuff that I'm even more excited to work on than on in other days.
Yeah. Has there, and how much have you had to dive in on the algorithm itself? Like how much have you had to go, okay, because I mean, I had kind of a similar, on the real estate side, a similar thing to where I'm watching. I've been doing real estate for 20 plus years, and I've had a lot of unique experiences. And I see some of these kids that are literally 21 years old, and I'm like, dude, like that's cool, but like you can't know what you're talking about. You haven't had enough time, and they get a million views. And I always thought, well, I could just hop on YouTube and do the same thing, and it hadn't worked for me. But how much of it is just making the content good versus the algorithm itself and studying that? What's the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think it is pretty frustrating sometimes because the algorithm is this like unknown entity of which no one really knows like how to feed it or what's required to succeed with it. I honestly think, and this is this is an unfortunate statement I'm about to make. I think the presentation of the video is more important oftentimes than the actual content of the video.
Yeah.
So I think the thumbnail, the title, and then just the technical edits are more important in some instances than what you're saying and like the value of what you're providing, which is pretty sad. Like when I started, I thought to myself, well, I can talk. Like I know I can talk, I can write. Like this is going to be pretty easy. But lo and behold, the things I didn't really know about, which was like thumbnails and editing and all this and audio and all this stuff, like the things I didn't know about is really what drives popularity to some degree, which is I think kind of sad, but it's more of a commentary maybe on society as well, not just the platform.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I got to be honest too, because like you look at some of these Mr. Beasts and people like that, and a lot of them give the same advice. They're like, well, just make good content. And I get that. We've all been there who've tried to do it to where you make something, like you said, where you feel like, well, what I'm saying is really good. But your definition of good content changes, right? The further you go up the tier, because the content isn't just what you're saying. Like you said, it's all those other ancillary things. Well, let me ask you this too. So, again, as a fan of yours, and my initial thought when I first saw him, like, gosh, I hope this guy gets on ESPN or FS1 or whatever, which sounds like it's still a goal of yours. But then I thought to myself, does he even want that? Because maybe YouTube is a more powerful platform than the networks at this point. So, what are some of your goals? Where would you like to see Jay Skapanik 2 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, even as of 2 years ago when I started doing this, my goal was still like kind of I want to, get on ESPN or get on FSN, or like become one of those, kind of talking heads on one of those platforms. But I think it definitely is shifting. Like I feel like, I can have every bit as powerful of a voice and as well known of a voice, and influence from, basically anywhere as long as I have, Wi-Fi and equipment.
Yeah.
So I still feel as if I have goals of getting much bigger. Maybe I'll go down this platform of like maybe I'll start a podcast sometime within the next year and see how big I could grow that. Maybe I can get on ESPN or one of these other places, kind of, like a McAfee, where he essentially has maintained his own footprint. Like he does it. He didn't move to, to wherever. I think it's Bristol, Connecticut is where ESPN headquarters at. So maybe I could get on one of these platforms, build out a remote studio from where I'm living, and just kind of not uproot my entire life, but still have, that kind of exposure. And mainly what I'm looking for, Stefan, is the ability to just bust up these media trolls that I see every day. Like I just want to just get on against these people like the Nick Wrights of the world, and just destroy them in head-to-head debate.
That would make me so happy, Jay. I would be him and something about Ryan Russillo. He's not as overt as Nick Wright, but something about him just really pisses me off. I'd love to see you slaughter either or both. Seems like there's more profit too, in a way. I mean, like you look at the McAfee deal, I think he got 18 million a year just for them to license his show he was already doing on YouTube. How hard has that been navigating the business side of things? You've touched on a couple of times already that you're getting into it now, and it sounds like you have a good support system around you too. But how difficult is that to navigate?
Very, very difficult. It's not just that. Yeah, it's the business element of it. It's trying to facilitate brand deals, sponsorships, and stuff. But it's also trying the expansion to other platforms and trying to grow organically there, and growth on other platforms oftentimes helps facilitate growth on YouTube. So those things they've really just been ancillary to me to this point, because I've been consumed with for 2 years, basically, like I just have to put out content. Like I just have to be working on, videos or doing lives or something. Like I have to be putting out content essentially or working towards it every day, and every waking minute of every day. Like that's basically been my primary and really only focus. So until most recently, like I've just dropped the ball on some of these other elements. And that's because I really haven't been viewing it as a business. And I think one of the things that I'm starting to get into now is building out a team, like having more people come on and help me, because I'm getting too caught in the weeds, I think, with some of the smaller elements of the channel from day to day. And it's taking away like my overall vision and my ability to plan for what's next. And you as an entrepreneur and a businessman, like like you probably spend primarily, like you devote your attention to things that you're good at. Like it's come to the point where I'm really doing all of the secondary things pertaining to building this channel and doing like the little minutia elements, and I haven't been able to focus on things that I really am good at the majority of the time.
And that's where your team, like you said, is so critical. And it's funny too, a lot of times when people are trying to help you, everybody wants to do the same stuff. Everybody wants to do the fun stuff. That's why I have a lot of respect for people that want to do that grimy stuff, whether it's editing or in your case, or in my case, it might be dealing with a busted air conditioner at a property or whatever. But which, if you do stay at Panama City, we did get a brand new air conditioner in July, by the way. But anyway, that's a nice segue to what I was going to ask you. It sounds like it's been fantastic from what you said already, but what has the reaction been like from people in your inner circle that have seen you grow like this? Obviously, you mentioned your wife, your parents, but I mean, because I can tell you honestly, to make it personal again for me, we're an entrepreneurial show and a real estate show for the most part, but I love sports, obviously. So when I've talked about sports, I've had clients and people come up to me like, "Why are you talking about basketball? Are you okay? Like, what's wrong with you?" And so have you dealt with any negative pushback from your inner circle, or has it just all been positive?
It's mostly been all positive. And to be totally transparent, like I'm lucky in the sense that I have a very, I talk about her sometimes. My wife is very understanding, and accepting. And we, fortunately, we're in a position, in our lives where, she was okay with me just kind of quitting everything that I was, quitting my job and just essentially saying, look, I'm going to take a year here and maybe make no money at all doing this thing. And she's like, that's okay, basically. So like whatever you feel like you have to do, we're okay. We're at a point where we're good. Like you can do whatever. You can take your, chase your stupid dream here for a year. And if you flop terribly, you just get another job. So she was very supportive, from the beginning. And it's been it's been a pretty rewarding journey. And my parents, or especially my mom, is like my biggest fan. So she spends like an hour or two a day watching my channel and doing things on, trying. She doesn't know much about technology. She's I think she'll be 76 here in about a week. So she doesn't. Okay. She's not good with commenting and liking, but she does put in the hours. She watches all of my videos multiple times, so it's just been fun. And then my friends and stuff have all been really supportive and think it's just a cool thing I'm doing. So yeah, it's been really no negativity. Even the vast majority of response from people online has been probably like 95% overwhelmingly positive. So yeah. I'm kind of a divisive figure in some instances. Like I have some pretty strong and hot takes. I was expecting to be, a little more hated, but it's just been a lot of positivity and support for by and large. So I've been really lucky in my experience.
No, that's great. Well, I think it's like we touched on earlier. I think it's just there wasn't a voice that could properly. There's some people that love Kobe, which is great, but there wasn't and I don't want to paint it, honestly, I got to catch myself here because I don't want to paint you as just a pro Kobe channel because you're a lot more than that. But there wasn't anybody articulating the angles that you articulate. And I think once you filled that vacuum, it was just all positive really going. That's a ballsy thing you just said, though. So you said, I'm going to do a year of this no matter what. That's a ballsy choice.
Yeah, at the time, I don't know what it is now, like what the metrics or the whatever the thresholds you have to hit. But at the time, I had just messed around on the channel. Like I said, my friends had started it for me like 4 years ago, and I had maybe posted 15 to 20 videos in the first 2 years. And in March 2023, I'm just like, look, I'm just gonna give everything I have here for a year, and I think I had 400 or 500 subscribers. The threshold at that point was 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 public watch hours to be monetized and become to be able to be part of the YouTube partner system where like Google pays you for advertising space and so forth. So, I was like, let me see how quickly I could get monetized. And then like how far, I can take it in a year and see, and I set, at the time, like arbitrary, goals and stuff for that first year. And I surpassed all of those things within like the first 6 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, with one video, really, right? And then it's all been
Oh
up
yeah.
from there. Yeah. All right, my friend. Two more questions for you, I think here. One silly and then one whatever. Who, if you could debate, give me your top two or top five, however many you want to do, really, but give me your top debate target. Could be media figures, sports figures, could be Donald Trump if you want, whoever.
I would I would say probably Nick Wright. I know I just mentioned him, but he's very, very high on my list. I think he's about the same age as you and I are. We're all very similar aged. He has been a principal LeBron stooge for
Yeah.
basically at least a decade. So and he fancies himself a bit of an expert debater and also an intellectual. So I would absolutely love the opportunity to go head to head against him. He would probably be number one. It's a great question. If I were to look outside of the sports landscape, I also dislike Colin Cowherd, I have to say. So he might be on the list. I would say, honestly, I would say Gilbert Arenas, but I've actually have gotten the chance to debate him head to head.
Yeah.
So that I guess he's removed from my wish list, though I wouldn't mind going back in at Gil and taking another stab at him. I've debated him twice now, so I think I've gotten the better of him both times.
That was that was probably my favorite Scat moment. Yeah. That was
I don't know. I'm trying to think of
I thought
somebody
maybe LeBron himself, you might say. I thought maybe that would be, but
I mean, I would love to sit down with LeBron. There's no doubt about that. But I think I would maybe even feel a little sorry for LeBron if he had to sit down across from me. So I don't know. Maybe I would take his surrogate, and his clutch sports brethren there. Maybe I would take one of those flunkies instead. Maybe Rich Paul, the lead clutch flunky. Maybe I would take him on. That would be a good one.
yeah, yeah, he's more equipped at least to have a coherent sentence with you. Final question, I believe. Somebody is listening to this or watching this and they have a message that they want to share with people like you did and still do. What would be your nutshell advice for them on how to navigate the waters of YouTube and getting that message out there?
Not to go overly long on this final question, but I mentioned Jim Rome being like a kind of a mentor type, even though I of course don't know him, but he's like been my idol, for so many years. He was propping up this. He has like two or three podcasts, and I listened to his daily show still, and he was kept pumping this podcast, the Reinvention podcast with Jim Rome, and probably for like 6 months I heard him talking about it, and finally one day I decided I was gonna listen to just the first episode and see how it went. And the first episode was just like a half an hour of him laying it out, what the podcast was gonna be. Typically about an hour long, and he was gonna have like high performers in various different industries or professions that also overcame some massive challenge or reinvented themselves in some way, with the overall goal being Rome was, he's about 60 years old, and he was just inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame, and he felt like the loved ones around him, family and friends, were kind of treating him like he was kind of at the end of things, and it was time to be, celebratory and reflective in his life. And that got him really sad and depressed because, he wanted to try to find a way to ensure that the best is still in front of him, even at 60, even after achieving all that he had. And the messaging just really resonated with me. I think that it would be my principal message is, I'm kind of obsessed with time frames and ages and getting older and all this stuff.
Me too, actually. But yeah.
And it's just I fear it. Like I bemoan my birthday every year, and it always gets me down, and I'm always like, well, I haven't done this, that, or the other by this stage or this age. And I think I'm trying to become more positive just overall, and I just think like if there's something that not necessarily YouTube, but if there's something that anyone that's listening to this wants to do, whether they're 25, 35, or 65, like really the time is going to pass anyway. Like you're going to lose those years that follow anyway. Do you want to spend those years, doing something still that that you either hate or that you're dissatisfied with, or do you want to just start working in the direction of getting on a path that you could be happy about and proud of? So I think it's never too late to do that. In terms of just YouTube specifically, it really is. For some, I guess maybe it's just as easy as, oh, let me just upload this stupid video and get a lot of views. But it actually is an absolute grind, especially at the beginning. Like it's a lot of learning how to do different things and how to, like I said, like editing, lighting, what your thumbnail looks like, trying to maximize the title and all this stuff, and then just being consistent enough. And not, you're gonna fail at the beginning. You're gonna put things up that get 5 views, but like, are you just going to be, tenacious enough to keep coming back and keep uploading and keep putting in the work and keep putting out the content? That's really what it's all about. I really do believe, like, if someone is willing to work hard enough and just not give up, like pretty much anybody can succeed at this thing.
Yeah, and that's where it helps, right? To when you really genuinely are passionate about whatever it is that you're putting out there. I've had a lot of people over the years ask me, like, literally just the question, how do I make a bunch of money? And I always ask them, well, what are you passionate about? And it's shocking to me how many people are perplexed by that. And or they'll say, like, well, whatever makes me the most money. I'm like, well, no, that doesn't work that way. You have to really love what you're doing. You'd have to be in a position where you would do it for free and then find out how to make money off of what that thing is.
Exactly. I think it's, I've worked in different industries and done different things, and I think I could have made a lot of money throughout my lifetime if I just, put my head down and just climbed the ladder and did those things. But ultimately, I think if you work hard at something and you're great at it, and basically your passion and stuff comes through in it, I think that's really how you make money and are satisfied about the money that you're making. Like money never fulfilled me, I think. Now that I'm making money doing this, and in some instances like good money, now I am proud of when I get a good deal or whatever, or if a channel pops off and I have a big day, like those, now all of a sudden, like, I am proud of or excited about when I have a good day money wise, because to me it's kind of showing like I'm moving in the right direction. Like I am really good at this thing, and I'm being valued for it.
Yeah. Well, and it's even if you're making a lot of money, if you're doing something you don't love, all you're thinking the whole time is, how can I get out of this, get enough money to where I can leave this and do what I really, because you might as well just do what you want to do anyway. That's
Exactly.
great. Well, Jay, thank you so much for doing this. It's an honor. And for anybody listening to this, if you somehow are listening to this and you're subscribed to me, but you're somehow not subscribed to him, if you want to hear from a great guy that's a sports historian that has a lot of takes, and also you're going to be doing NFL, I know, this season more prominently, go check out SkapAttack. But thank you, my friend. Really enjoyed it.
Stefan, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to, furthering the relationship, and definitely it was an honor to talk to you tonight, and we'll have to do it again sometime.